from the fetters of this world. Loose your soul from the prison of self. Seize your chance, for it will come to you no more. Oh, my people, you've got to free yourself. Oh, my people, you've got to free yourself. Oh, my people, you've got to free yourself.
Good afternoon. Happy Sunday to you. Happy first day of the week. Not first day of the work week, but first day of the week nonetheless. This month's topic, as you know, was starting over, rebuilding, or making new. This week, we are going to be talking about things that are going on in April. You know, it's springtime. Today, we're going to bring up 3 topics, and we'll follow through the next few weeks on these topics. We're going to talk about the Holocaust, Autism Awareness Month, and Earth Day. And we're talking about, of course, renewal and rebuilding and starting over. Today, we'll be going into the Holocaust. But first off, this is April. In April, we have 3 events that go on every year. We have the past, present, and future, as I've listed it. The past, we look at the Holocaust. You know, although it's not the full Holocaust Awareness Month, you know, on April 8th is Holocaust Awareness Day. And Holocaust Days of Remembrance are from April 7th through 14th this year of 2013. And the Holocaust was roughly around 50 years ago. But this is the month that we take a good look at it. And during the week, we try to encourage looking at all Holocausts. Okay, there were several Holocausts going on, but we'll get into that a little bit later. The next thing is, it's also Autism Awareness Month. Many folks may not be aware of autism. You may have heard of Asperger's or different types of autism, but it is a fast-growing epidemic, and it has several signs. And so since next week, we'll be speaking about that because there's an Autism Awareness Day coming up on the 26th. You know, even though this whole month is Awareness Month, we're going to dedicate some of it next week just to autism. And lastly, a future event, April 22nd is Earth Day. Yay! Like as if the Earth needs a day. You know, yes, let's recognize the planet we live on. But our Earth Day is coming up also. Okay? And the funny thing about this topic of Holocaust, it kind of interweaves into each of these topics. Okay? And so, once again, this month we have Holocaust Awareness Month, Autism Awareness Month, and then, of course, Earth Day. And, of course, it's an Earth Day. There's a whole week, of course, that's dedicated to Earth Day. I'd like to say welcome to my guest. It's Carmen again. Our youth did a show. They did a video show, and you can catch that on our Twitter feed and our other stuff, and I'll mention that again at the end of the show, so you can see bits of what they did today. So we did not have a topic to talk about today. So that's why we have Holocaust coming up today. Hey, Carmen, how you doing?
Hey, what's up?
Nothing much, nothing much. Thank you for coming again.
I am glad to be here.
Although we have tons of youth, we could have done this. We're sitting around in our house and what have you. You know, I wanted to hear your lovely voice again. All right, we're going to talk about the Holocaust today. Okay, first I'd like to read the definition of the Holocaust. You know, some folks may not know what Holocaust means, you know, but it says that, by Webster, a destruction or slaughter on a mass scale. The Holocaust that we're used to hearing about is the Holocaust, which of course refers to, you know, 1940s with Hitler. And then after that, another Holocaust.
1933.
1933, thank you.
That's when the raids of the Nazis were 1933. So it's important to recognize what the rising of authority, which were the Nazis of 1933. So, okay.
Yeah. We're gonna have to, I guess, talk about the things that can lead to a Holocaust, the Holocaust, or any that are going on. I'm going to continue with the definitions. It says a great destruction resulting in extensive loss of life, especially by fire.
Can I add the word systematic
You sure can.
and bureaucratic
Yes, you can.
and state sponsor? Because these are some key points also. And inject also that the scale was 6 million people that died.
In the Holocaust.
The Holocaust.
Not in all Holocausts.
That which we're speaking of, that was this period.
That this month is
to
recognizing,
remember.
right. Well, right. April 8th recognizes that Holocaust, and the week represents Holocausts around the world, to include some that are going on right now while we are speaking.
And this is the Jewish Holocaust
Yes,
that
this
we're
is.
speaking of in particular, that they are in remembrance. It's actually been mandated at a level of the federal government since 1982.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the last definition I have is a sacrifice consumed by fire, a burnt offering.
Yes.
And I'm going to circle that one
Yes.
because that one was the most interesting to me.
Yes.
And now we'll just go back to talking about holocausts. What can make a holocaust? And Carmen listed some stuff, so can you go back and list those things again? Some of the things that can help.
The key thing is that the Holocaust, according to the website www.ushmm.org, there's an article there, and they refer to the Holocaust as a systematic, bureaucratic, state-sponsored persecution and murder. And of course, this is of Jewish people. And this is the first war that the United States became involved in as a nation. I think that's important to recognize. I believe that has some special significance to our country. A lot of times we get caught up in the racism aspects. We think about, well, the Jewish people, yes, that's a large, 6 million, that's a lot, but we have also a Holocaust that happened before that. I guess it just depends on Holocaust, the word Holocaust, what it means. So anyway, I don't want to digress, but really think about the reasons why these periods are being commemorated and the significance in that we as a nation, we share is part of a journey. Last week we talked about how
We're rebuilding.
yes, and when you're rebuilding, you're always going back to what was original. There was a building that took place. When you're rebuilding, you are going back to that place where you started.
Okay, so in the case of a Holocaust, okay, and Holocausts that are going on, keywords that are coming out through fire, okay, so bombings, shootings, wars. Wars sound like Holocausts to me. We might label them as war, but if people are getting burned up and they're being wiped out, then that sounds like a Holocaust to me, with a new title called war. What do you think about us rebuilding? What do you think we would need to not have another Holocaust?
Again, like we talked about last week, you see a recurring theme, and then eventually I won't have to, won't go back over it and over and over it. This is a new show, so when you're dealing with the Holocaust, you're dealing with what we said this month is about, is remembrance. We're remembering since 1982 that there was such of a thing as a Holocaust that was about the persecution of Jewish people. This 6 million people. And this period of time that people, their lives were cut off literally by the fire. I remember going to Germany and actually witnessing, it's so funny that this is, or I should say ironic, that I'm caused to reflect on a day that I thought that I would see the different museums that they have in Germany to commemorate the deaths of the Jewish people. And they literally had rooms that had a fire, a gas chamber in that room, and next to that actual incinerator, a step stool, and a noose that hung from the ceiling, and individuals that would come when it was their turn to be extinguished They were greeted by a body hanging in midair that was suitable, according to the Nazis, to throw into the fire, and for the next individual on their given day to step on that ladder, to put that noose around their neck, and prepare to be the scene for the next individual that will come into that room. This is the type of specific, graphic thing that we're talking about remembering. Remembering that there was a rise of a power in a nation, in a state.
An ideology that allowed it to go on.
Literally.
Because the country, the government just couldn't do it. There had to be a support system.
Yes.
There had to be a support system that allowed the government to operate without any type of defiance to it.
Yes.
As far as being negative.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Holocausts in any country, there you will find that the people of the country not necessarily support it, but have not openly tried to stop it.
That's right. It's systematic. It is a system. There is a system.
What else is the thing?
Mm-hmm.
It's systematic?
It is systematic. It is bureaucratic.
Bureaucracy. There's a lot of talking going on instead of actions to defuse an extensive loss of life.
And it's sponsored, state-sponsored persecution and murder.
So now I'd like to talk about the Holocaust in a broader frame, because we'll always put it. And what happens is sometimes we'll do things like we'll just talk about the Holocaust. Okay, I'm going to read the definition again: destruction or slaughter on a mass scale. Now let's go up to like a 270-degree talk on this word Holocaust. Any time that things, life forms, are being destroyed at a mass scale, anytime like the raping of forest, you know what I mean? Resulting in extensive loss, especially through fire. Just think about those forced burns of forests where tons of animals are being killed. Tons of, sacrificed.
As if they are expendable.
Right. A Holocaust.
Not necessary.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more, humans, of course, are the highest stage of life on this planet.
Supreme
and it's good
beings.
to talk about them. But, I always figure if you can stomp on an ant, then you can kill a human. Because death is death is death is death, as far as I'm concerned. If you're willing to kill, you might be willing to kill. So that whole Holocaust idea also can be transformed into how we purchase as consumers.
Yes.
How we burn through things. You know what I mean? How we slaughter cows for burgers. Plastic, gasoline and oil for CDs and computers and laptops. You know what I mean?
But it's with the perception that there is a solution. They didn't just do this for no reason at all. This is actually considered a solution.
The Holocaust was?
It was considered a solution. So that is
A solution to
suggesting
what?
that there is a problem.
Yeah.
For one, the Jewish people, we know, they had access to
Resources?
capital and resources.
And so the Holocaust...
And they were distinguished by a certain look. There was a certain appearance of these individuals.
I don't understand what you mean by that. You mean
Well,
that they looked like they were
like,
rich, or
a lot of people,
they looked different? I don't
even
understand
down
what you're saying.
to the color of the hair. A lot of people, they started to color their hair just to kind of deter the idea that they were possibly could be persecuted simply by the color
you
of
mean
their hair.
after when the Holocaust started?
When it started,
Right.
because
But
there was
the
a
problem part you were talking about. Okay, you said that there's a problem part, and that the Holocaust was looked at as a solution.
Well, they called
and
it
a solution. Right. It was a solution to what?
Well, the Nazis, again, I've just been on this encyclopedia, the Holocaust Encyclopedia website, which I mentioned earlier, and the Nazis, this group that came to rise into power, they frequently used a euphemistic language, quote, to disguise the true nature of their crimes, and they used the term final, quote, final solution to refer to their plan to annihilate the Jewish people.
And what was this a solution to? How is killing anyone a solution? What were the problems they were facing that a solution would be to a genocide? Sacrificing things.
Unfortunately, it was purely discriminatory measures that were utilized. We have to go back to the mastermind, to Adolf Hitler, you know. We would have to go back to him. I mean, you would, I guess now I would have to come from the hip, and I would consider that at that period that there was poverty issues that were going on. There were issues of those that were considered privileged. And that's something that we, not to stereotype, but the Jewish people had been known for their resources that they had.
So an animosity was being built up. Perhaps there was a division. Perhaps it was an unheard of division. That could have...
The have versus the have-nots.
Yeah, you know what I mean? 'Cause you see, it's always tricky when we get into these situations. You know what I mean? I am sure that there's a communication failure in that country. For an oppressed group of lowerlings or what have you to rise up to a revolutionary state, to be filled with angst and anger. It reminds me of Bloods and Crips and MS-13. You know what I'm saying? Or anyone who's running through the streets of Egypt right now rioting. You know, or anyone that's rioting anywhere, Occupy. You know, there has to be something that is allowing this rage to fester. Now, of course, I'm not saying the Nazis should be absolved of what they did.
No,
that's not what I'm saying. So if anybody misconstrues what I'm saying right now, I'm clearing that up. But what I am saying is that there is in society a space that allows a Holocaust to happen.
There's a historical place, and so we would have to, again, like
Look
we
at
talked
the
about
issue.
last week, we have to always, to orient yourself, to be able to make those steps in rebuilding, you would need to look at the original building. There were things historically that were going on at that period, and we would have to consider the Holy Roman Empire. You cannot go without knowing something about the Holy Roman Empire. And people will say, what's that? You know, and we could have a whole, I would refer people to learn about the Holy Roman Empire. Learn about the history that led us to the European area where this Holocaust took place. Also looking at the population growth, the acquisition of wealth, the acquisition of resources, and to recognize that where there are resources, you can best believe there will be a rising of an authority
To control the
that
resources.
will look for an opportunity that they can seize those resources. I mean, this is
Yeah,
already
that's
happening.
what I think about the Holocaust. It was about resource control.
And
Okay, it was about resource control. Okay, and that is what, you know. I'm glad we're heading towards that direction. And I'm speaking on that. One group saw that someone had more resources, and with the envy, jealousy, and hatred
And
started
a systematic
spinning,
plan.
and then a plan to take it.
Uh-huh.
And if we look back through all Holocausts, you will find the same intention in those who plan it. And you will find that their intentions come from a lack, a need.
Or some desire, or some desire for these resources. See, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but power and principalities that are in high places. And we also have that love of money that comes out since when? Since when have been the root of all evil?
Yeah, we've loved objects and things.
Wow.
I can't even think of how long we've actually had a reason to find an image or an object and to place some sort of special
Right. And oftentimes
feelings on it.
individuals that don't even have, to them, those are resources that are commonplace. It's not a big deal to have in their backyard a gold mine, jewels in caves, and resources that they have a fullness and an abundance of that is commonplace for many civilizations.
For some, right, for many,
But
for all
others
of us.
on the outside who have perceived what is considered to be wealth, what is considered to be the, I want to use the word, gosh, it's about the conceptualization of wealth.
Right.
And how it has evolved. And I don't know, I really am not, I'm not a scholar of the Jewish faith, and I'm very sensitive to not being stereotypical, but I can't help but to think about movies like The Pianist. I thought it was a great movie. It caused me to recognize a family that movie, it spotlighted a family that did have resources, and that those resources were, I don't know, it was clear through that movie, and it would be wonderful to have a scholar. And I think it's great that I don't really know everything because it gives you all some work to do. But there were people that were of Jewish descent that had access to the resources, that had for generations, that these resources had been they had been accessible to them for family for generations, just simply because of being born into these resources. And this was a coveted role, and so there was a bit of public image destruction, and a twisting, a distortion of a people as far as who they were. That was not true based on the access that they had to resources. And that movie really...
Yeah, talking like that, it makes me think about how sometimes, like, I'm from Brooklyn, I'm from New York, right? And it makes me think of how sometimes people would talk about white people, and they assume that white people had access to resources that we didn't have an access to. And that's why they hated them. You know what I mean? Well, not just. I mean, I heard Spanish people say it, Native American people. All through my life, meeting people from different areas, I've heard a lot of people from different cultures reference Western cultured folks, or quote unquote what they call white people. But I don't use that word because I'm not racist.
In particular, Americans.
Right. Right. But they say they have that same type of feeling. So you could technically cause a whole new Holocaust here in America, where folks will abuse, quote unquote, white folk, thinking that they have something that they don't have. We can demonize. Well, I mean, the white man has been demonized equally now. You know what I mean?
That's interesting.
So
That's
Holocaust.
Really
Holocaust trying to stick to the word Holocaust. You know what I mean? Because to be honest with you, and this is not to mean to be offensive. I'm not really concerned if it was the Jews. I'm concerned with who's being destroyed and slaughtered at a mass scale.
Yes.
If it's people with autism, you know what I mean? If it's people who love the earth and people are killing them and making fun of them, you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Being the fire. If anyone who's going through the fire, that is what I'm concerned with when I speak about the word Holocaust.
Yes.
And I don't mean to be rude.
Yes.
So I do find offense in anyone who has treated Jews poorly. But I feel the same offense for anyone who treats white people poorly, women poorly, gays poorly, or any type of Holocaust.
Holos kostos. Holos meaning a whole group. Kostos meaning burnt.
You see?
That's why I referred to that room, because
I like that.
That is literally what happened.
Right, because you can
people
roast the
don't
whole
know
group, the youth being roasted.
They think about how the Jewish peoples were killed, and we just think, they just died. But people don't think about what actually happened. They were literally burnt. They were literally, because they had hung, and when it was their time, the next individual remove that individual from that noose that would now become theirs.
Sounds like work to me.
I can never forget that day. And I do, even as an African American, I will say, just for the sake of the term, that I am a person of African descent. My family, but it just so happens that my family, I know that by tales of my father's brother, that there were
the Goins family
Germans,
she's referring to. The
yes,
Goins family. They came from Germany.
Yes,
they have Jewish descent in them as well.
They came here to escape. They came here to escape that world and here to America and later to become a part of the African American race.
And to find another Holocaust.
Yeah, and to even hide that name that resembled a German and possibly Jewish state, that they were so afraid that they changed the spelling of the name, that they would not be remembered as those that were of Jewish descent. So, I
guess Holocaust, a group going through the fire, is very important. Sacrifice. You know, as I think broader to gays.
Yes.
Those with special needs.
Yes.
Obese.
Yes.
When I think of No Child Left Behind, Title I schools, women, all these
people that
images.
Are just bullied.
Bullied, right.
Yeah.
Right. They're going through a Holocaust.
As if they're dispensable.
Right. As if they can be sacrificed.
As if they're not worth that effort of treating them as a good human being. As just a human being.
Mm-hmm.
A human being that is equal. You know? I'm grateful for this discussion. I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful.
All right, so we are done talking about the Holocaust. I would like to thank right now Mike McLeland, who came and spoke to our youth group. He's a graphic designer. You can find him on MikeMcMillan.com, and he does video games. So if you guys are gamers, a lot of the games and a lot of the movies, like The Hobbit and stuff of that nature that you've seen, he has done his craft on it. And today he shared with our youth, and he inspired them, because we have several artists, as you've already seen on our YouTube page, on our Twitter page, or what have you. We have a lot of people that want to become something one day. So I'd like to thank him on the radio show as well. And at the end of this month, coming towards May, we'll have more youth involvement. I would like to thank you guys for listening, if you do listen. And I'd love to thank Carmen for coming out. You know, we'll speak to her again next week.
So glad to be here. I'm so glad. I hope to just leave you all with the thought that as we will end up speaking of Earth Month next week, I believe it is.
Yes, it is, next week.
I just want to remind you all that even without me giving you all kinds of good tips as far as what you can do to be involved in Earth Month, look at your different farmers markets that might be in your area. There's one here in the area of Parkwood, right off of 55 and Sedgwick, is it? And that one is available to you every Saturday. I mean, hey, even if you come thinking, I'm just going to see what's there, and maybe I'll grab some garlic or some...
Oh, yeah, buy some plants from Lowe's.
You might be surprised. Sometimes they have there's so many different things in it. Even
plant
if
a
you
garden.
Sometimes, yeah, I mean, it's just a good thing. It's very inspiring. I want to recommend the South, I believe it's the South Market, that they have the South Side Farmers Market that they have. And of course, in other parts of Durham, you'll find down off Foster Street, you'll find that they have a farmers market every Saturday also. I want to encourage people to start thinking about maybe planning. You know, we'll talk about more of this for Earth Month, but I want to get you all so that we can be able to really be into good thought mode when it comes to Earth Month. That's next week, right?
Yes,
so
ma'am,
look
next
for
week.
things that are out there, ways that you can celebrate.
Yeah. Free yourself from the fetters of this world. Loose your soul from the prison of self. Seize your chance, for it will come to you no more. Oh, my people, you've got to free yourself. Oh, my people, you've got to free yourself. Oh, I see you down on your hands and knees, sifting through dust, looking for diamonds. Oh, my people, you've got to free yourself. You're searching high and low, from the mountaintop to the valley. You know you won't